From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Studio One. I'm Morgan Goulding.
And I'm Kari Strandberg.
Today in the show, sometimes the art of flying a plane gets overshadowed by the new drone craze, but some pilots continue to push the limits. We'll talk to an aviator who pitches and rolls his planes in competitions.
Also, the Pew Research Center says 90% of Americans own a cell phone. For some, the device has turned into an addiction. Find out the toll our personal technology takes on the brain. But first, President Obama has awarded the Medal of Honor to a retired U.S. Army captain for his heroic efforts in Afghanistan. Captain Florent Groberg was awarded the medal for his action in 2012 when he was part of a security detail that was ambushed. He survived 2 suicide bombings but was left seriously wounded. After nearly 3 years in recovery and more than 30 surgeries to save one of his legs, he medically retired from the Army in July. The gum on this wall won't stick for long. Pike Place Market hired a contractor to give Seattle's famous chewing gum wall its first thorough cleaning. The wall is estimated to hold about 1 million wads of gum and will take about 3 days to clean. Crews will weigh the gum as it's removed, but anticipate that there's about 2,200 pounds on the wall. Each year, many people make a New Year's resolution to lose weight. While that can be a difficult task, a fitness trend is growing that could help these aspiring fitness junkies. The American College of Sports Medicine says that wearable technologies, such as Fitbits, will be the #1 fitness trend of 2016. Although Fitbits are not a new technology, many improvements have been made to make them more user-friendly and accurate at monitoring fitness progress.
I like the new version better. It has electronic information, so you can see it literally instantaneously, where this one you have to go to a smartphone or a computer and check out your information.
Users can now monitor things such as exercise, food, weight, and sleep patterns, all with the help of a small band on their arm. Some wearable technologies even have new features, such as setting the time limit on how long you can sit still during the day.
There are over 8,000 patients on the waiting list for life-saving organ transplants, but help may be on the way. For years, scientists have been experimenting with different animal genes to make certain transplants possible. A Harvard researcher is using a gene editing tool to modify genes from pig embryos, making organs easier to transplant into humans. But there are some hesitations. Pig organs are more likely to infect the human recipient, and patients would need to take medication to protect their immune systems.
Cell phones, tablets, and laptops are routinely used on college campuses nationwide. Now, some psychologists are overusing your smartphone might not be so smart.
The cell phone business is a multi-million-dollar industry. With the constant release of new apps and even faster ways to access information, cell phones provide instant gratification in the palm of your hand.
I think that college students are just kind of consumed with being in the know.
Cell phone dependency is a growing issue. Common Sense Media says the typical college student uses their cell phone device for an average of 9 hours a day. Students are finding themselves staying up late, distracted from schoolwork, and can often see changes in behavioral trends.
You just don't really get sick of it, and I think with the screen in my face, it's keeping me wide awake.
Not only this over-dependence on texting and iPod use and cell phone use, but now we're starting to show behavioral outcomes, neuropsychological outcomes, and actually, to some extent, sleep-related outcomes.
Psychology professor Richard Ferraro says that cell phone addiction is not a psychological addiction like drug or alcohol abuse, but the behavior that individuals show is very similar to those types of addictions. His research shows overdependent students sleep less, their grades suffer, and their relationships can flounder, all of which happen when addicted to drugs and alcohol.
We live in a society of instant gratification. We live in a society where we want feedback immediately, and we live in a society where we want that feedback to be as positive as possible.
Whether it's for social media or simple conversation, overuse of devices is taking a toll on students.
Because I feel anxiety when I don't know where my phone is, or if it's not by me.
Experts say the best way to relieve yourself of the cell addiction is to set your device aside, or simply turn it off. I'm Jake Ocken, reporting for Studio One.
Ferraro says that there are questionnaires available to indicate how much or how little someone is dependent on their mobile device. And that's the news for now.
Thanks, Kari. Let's go now to Emily Pogatshnik for the weather news. Emily?
Thanks, Morgan. This week in the Weather Studio, we've been taking a look at some high winds that moved through Des Moines, Iowa. Some bit larger oak trees have been demolished due to these winds, and some debris has been scattered everywhere, and some neighborhoods were left without power. The local power company is currently surveying the damage, and the National Weather Service is also surveying the damage since they're not sure if it happened due to straight line winds or a tornado. Roads were shut down across Wyoming this week over wintry conditions. Black ice earlier in the day caused crashes, and wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour later on in the day led to more crashes. Conditions caused a 50-mile stretch of interstate to be closed, which caused a lot of truckers to get stranded on that stretch of road as well. Most of our severe weather that we see throughout the country is due to a low pressure system. We're going to talk about a Colorado low, which is one particular one. Starts off in Colorado, hence the name Colorado low. It usually has a warm front and a cold front trailing on it, and as it moves, the precipitation that hangs out around the warm front actually wraps around in a counterclockwise position around that low pressure system. And about right here is where it's usually its strongest, and the closer you are to that low pressure system, the higher your winds will be, which is why Iowa saw such high wind gusts earlier this week due to a Colorado low. As it continues on into its lifespan, it weakens a little bit, forming an occluded front, and that's where the cold front overtakes the warm front, making that warm air detach from the low pressure system at the surface of the earth. Now, trees, they are great for shelter and some shade, but not some of the larger clusters are disappearing along the North Dakota prairie. While driving along the highway in North Dakota, you will start to see a pattern. That pattern consists of trees that stretch across farm fields in a straight line. Farmers planted these tree rows decades ago, and they are dying.
The farmstead shelter belts and windbreaks being removed. In many cases, they're not being replaced.
The shelter belt program was started in the 1930s. The tree rows were originally planted to slow the harsh North Dakota winds and save topsoil. Many farmers say they don't need the trees to help with wind erosion, but there are incentives to keep them standing.
There are some programs available where you can actually get financial compensation for replanting trees and for renovating, maybe through some pruning or fertilizing or spacing of existing shelter belt trees.
Sagaser and his team suggest staying away from ash trees because of their susceptibility to disease. He suggests other, more hardy species.
Some of those are oaks, for example, hackberry, different varieties of linden, or what we call basswood.
Sagaser also says wildlife depend on the trees for shelter. While new life may thrive with the added habitat, farming practices often dictates the prairie landscape. Another reason for the disappearance of the tree rows is due to the larger farm equipment we have nowadays. Farmers, they have a harder time maneuvering around those trees. And that brings us to our weather question of the week. What is the record for the most snowfall in one day in the United States? Is it 43 inches, 57, 68, or 76 inches? Now, Morgan, this event also holds the record for most continuous snowfall due to one storm.
All right, thanks, Emily. Let's go now to Kari for the sports story of the day. Kari?
Thank you, Morgan. Winter is the time for hockey, when fans can't keep their eyes off the ice. But there are those who commit to a sport that keeps their focus on the sky.
With birdies flying, rackets swinging, and people shouting, these courts are something some athletes look forward to every week.
I love it. I know that I get to see Jamie, and it's right after work, so it's just kind of our Monday night get-together.
Their game is badminton, a sport many consider to be just your average summer activity. With intramural games being held every week at the University of North Dakota, these students know what it takes to come away with the W.
When you're on the court, it's a lot of fun. It makes you feel like your practice is worth it, especially when you can come out here and win.
As these badminton enthusiasts participate in the sport they enjoy so much, they have to remember what got them started.
Senior year, and you got an A if you beat the gym teacher. So I took it pretty seriously. Thought that was pretty much my only way of getting an A in the class.
Not only is badminton a good way to stay in shape, it's also a great way to have fun, meet people, and learn about a new sport.
I thought badminton was super laid back and chill, but you get a good workout in, and it's really fast paced. Jamie and I like to have fun, so we're always laughing and giggling.
Unlike other sports like football, hockey, and soccer, where the players must have more endurance, in badminton, you need something a little different.
It's endurance and more just hand-eye coordination and reflexes. That's pretty important for badminton.
As their love for this traditional long game grows, these athletes stay healthy and keep their spirits soaring. I'm Nicholas Moen, reporting for Studio One.
Intramural badminton matches are best 2 out of 3 and support both singles and double teams. Supervisors say any skill level can get involved. And that's the sports story for today's show. Morgan, I don't think I saw a single person on the court that wasn't smiling during that.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a great way to stay active in the winter. Thanks, Kari. The FAA says America has more than 600,000 active pilots, ranging from private to commercial. Some even fly planes as a sport. Coming up, hear from a man who turns his plane upside down on purpose.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by NDAD, helping others to help themselves.
For me to go to college, it was a big step, knowing that I'm pursuing a better future for myself. When you know that you have a small system there that you can still find comfort in, it really makes a difference. The support here and everything that they offer for us, you know, the tutors, the free meals, the family, the friends, basically just somewhere for you to relax and be comfortable and find that home feeling again.
Yeah, okay, science meets imagination. Life changed by innovation. They're the future of our nation. Engineers the occupation. UND College of Engineering and Mines. Invest in your mind to stay with the times. Formulas, machines, and all that's in between. They teach it all from wall to help you succeed. Come on, it could be electrical, chemical, or civil. Our world-class staff will help you make it all official. Mechanical, petroleum, geology align at
the UND's College of Engineering and Mines.
Okay, become a leader, prove yourself among all your peers. Changing the world begins right here. You're not alone, but in the plan, we'll take your hand and help you stand with mentorship and advising. We'll do all we can. Okay, so if you want to join the party, simply calculate. The math adds up, so never think to hesitate. Education, leadership, and dreams combine at the UND College of Engineering and Mines.
Closed captioning for Studio One is supported in part by the Listen Center, enriching the lives of people who have intellectual disabilities with choices in community recreation.
Future pilots come around the world to train at the University of North Dakota. As part of the world's largest collegiate training fleet, many students are able to experiment with different ways with flying. National Aerobatics team member Cameron Jacksmeyer is here to explain how flying has taken him to the national stage. Thanks for joining us today, Cameron.
Thank you.
First off, what is aerobatics?
Aerobatics is basically just a sport. We focus on safety a lot, but when it comes down to it in competition, we're focused on precision of the angles and the lines and timing, all being graded by the judges on the ground.
So how did you get into something like this?
I tried out the course here at UND. That was the first place I ever went upside down in an aircraft, and it was a lot of fun, so kind of got addicted to it after being scared the first few times. But then I went down to California, did some more training down there, and went on from there.
So what type of training did you receive?
Here we train in a 2-seat high-wing aircraft. It's very good for, it's probably the best aircraft you can use for basic training in aerobatics. And down in California, I trained in a more high-performance, low-wing aircraft, more capable of advanced maneuvers.
Okay, so what teams are you currently on?
Well, I was a member of the UND Aerobatic team through the national competition of this year. Since I graduated, I'm no longer eligible for that after this season's over. Now I'm a part of the US Advanced Aerobatic team, and we'll be competing in Poland and hopefully bringing home the gold in August of next year.
So how are you judged in competitions? Like, is it a point system or how does that work?
Yeah, so each figure is given a difficulty rating, and you have a grade of 0 through 10. broken up into increments of half points. So the amount of points available is divided by 10, and based on every 5 degrees you're off on a line, or if timing's off on rolls, then they deduct points based off of that.
All right, so I know we have some videos. Can you explain what you're doing when it comes on?
Sure. So here, this is more of a pushing maneuver. We're experiencing negative G's here, about -6 G's. All the blood's being pushed to your head. You can see in the rolls, it's quite, well, trying to be precise. This was early season, so it's not as good as it could have been. This is at Nationals of this year. Accuracy of rolls again on the vertical down line, pulling about 9 G's there at the bottom.
How does it feel to be rolling around like that?
It's a little disorienting at first, but you start to get used to it. As you can see in this video, we're rolling at a pretty good rate. This is more air show type figures as well, but it's good practice for making your mind slow the figure down while you're in the aircraft.
How quickly did you get used to that feeling? Like, what did it take?
It took quite a bit. There's different levels of aerobatic competition, and to be safe, you want to progress through them at a pace that you're comfortable with. So it took about 3 years to get to the level that we're at now.
Do you still remember your first time doing it? Like, how did you feel that very first time?
I wasn't too comfortable hanging from the seat belts upside down, 3,000 feet above the ground, but I got used to it after a few flights.
So what has been your personally biggest accomplishment in this sport?
Biggest accomplishment, 3 years ago, I made it a goal to make the US Advanced Aerobatic team in 2015 for the 2016 World Championships. So probably achieving that goal was.
So what is your personal favorite part of it, though?
Favorite part of aerobatics is the challenge that it presents, because you can never be perfect in anything, and always trying to become better in something. I don't know, it keeps your mind active, keeps your body active, and it's a lot of fun.
So do you have any goals to achieve at the national level?
Yeah, at the national level, hoping to eventually take home first in advanced. We'll see how long that takes. At the world level this next year, I'm just hoping to compete the best that I can, and hopefully be able to contribute as much as I can to the team so that we can bring home the gold.
I know you sometimes bring people up with you. How do you prepare them, like brief them on the ground?
Yeah, there's a lot of briefing. Aerobatics is all about safety. It improves pilot skills, but when we take other people up and they're not used to it, the main focus is safety and comfort. People who aren't used to, I mean, especially like my first time flying upside down, if you're not used to it, it's not very comforting to begin with, so we brief them a lot on the parachute, the use and operation of it, emphasizing that we're most likely not going to have to use it, and then throughout the flight we progress slowly through very basic maneuvers, going with what they're comfortable with.
What's the best reaction you've had when someone's come up with you?
There's a few screamers. Those are always fun. You can't hear air traffic control too well, but yeah, when they're screaming, you know they're having a good time.
So what's next for your flying career? Are you going to stick with aerobatics or commercial aviation?
Yep, sticking with aerobatics for now. I'm working air shows, not performing, but working ground crew for a friend down in the south, so I'll be ferrying that aircraft between air shows next year, and dedicating most of my time towards the U.S. team so that we can do our best in Poland next year.
All right, well thanks for joining us today, Cameron.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sometimes getting your dog to sit and stay just isn't enough. Coming up next, learn how one group of volunteers is going above and beyond to train man's best friend.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
It's not the size of the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the woman.
Dakota is facing challenges in healthcare delivery. The University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences is building a place to help meet the state's healthcare needs. In addition to a new structure, we're also building interaction between healthcare professionals while building a workforce through expanding class sizes. We're inspiring our youth to engage in healthcare careers and exploring ways to reduce disease. It starts here and ends here, building a better future for North Dakota.
Really admire the faculty. They're the ones that kind of helped push me through this.
Courses are hands-on and interactive. The communication program has so many different facets to it. One of the great things about the staff in the communication department is that they love what they do. They encourage you to really critically think and analyze everything you're learning. They're so into it, and it makes you want to be into it.
To have the future you want and a career you'll be proud of, you'll need a great education. The University of North Dakota can get you there with more than 225 degree programs, preparing you for today's fastest growing, high-demand careers, like medicine and health professions, aerospace, business, engineering, and energy. Schedule your campus visit today at und.edu/go, because to succeed, you need to be exceptional.
If you would like to attend a live show, go to our website at studio1.und.edu.
In 2010, the eyes of the world turned to Chile. 33 miners were trapped underground after a gold and copper mine caved in. The movie 33 attempts to capture the never-before-seen events that unfolded. In the film, a rock more than twice the size of the Empire State Building blocks the entrance to the mine. An international team works night and day to rescue those inside, and millions of people across the globe look as the rescue mission intensifies. Antonio Banderas plays one of the miners who battled near starvation for more than 2 months.
These are people that have been struggling their whole lives to survive in a tough environment, and suddenly something was coming from outside that opened their eyes to something completely different and new.
The set of the film was just kilometers away from where the event actually happened. Many of the miners who were involved in the incident were on set during production. They provided input about laboring in the mine. The director says it helped make the story come to life. The 33 will be released on November 13th with a PG-13 rating. New motherhood can be extremely difficult and especially stressful in a woman's life when they have to hold down a job to make ends meet. Top companies have started changing employee benefits. Some have created an expanded benefits that focus on women. Amazon is now offering new mothers up to 20 weeks of paid leave. We wanted your thoughts on how much time you think companies should offer women for maternity leave.
I think 6 weeks is an incredibly short period of time for moms to acclimate themselves to a new baby.
I would say at least like 3 to 4 months, because babies are at that critical age where they need that like contact and closeness with their mothers.
Gives them enough time to adapt before they head back.
Over in Europe, they're like, here's everything you'll need. Here's a full year. Take the time to bond with your child. So 20 weeks is great. I really think that full year would be better.
I also think it could kind of cause a bit of an issue with working for women, because like what I've heard about maternity leave is necessarily you'll still have a job coming back in your organization, but it might not be the job you had when you left.
Not only do you have a new child, so the child needs to adapt, but also mom has emotional things going on too, and so I think the longer they have together, the better.
A comment on Facebook from Shakopee, Minnesota. Sarah says, I think more the time a mother has to bond with her newborn, the better. Paternal leave is also very important. I don't think there can be too much paid maternity and paternity leave. Christy from Kindred, North Dakota says, I think that 20 weeks is bordering on too long. Granted, many other places like Norway offer 12-month paid maternity leave.
Most dog owners wish their dog would listen better. Sometimes learning commands takes time. We found a group that volunteers to teach others.
At times, they seem like part of our families. For those wanting to teach their furry friends a few more tricks, this kennel club may be the answer. Lisa Wiersma is in charge of this classroom of canine students.
Once they get the idea that treats are involved and it's really exciting, then all of a sudden they're like, okay, it's not so scary.
The club has over 15 volunteers who teach classes in agility, obedience, and the ever-popular puppy kindergarten.
I enjoy doing this simply because of the ability for the dogs to learn. It just makes me happy to watch them just develop and become more of an active dog.
The diverse skills of the trainers provide more than just obedience. Some of the classes are focused on getting you and your dog ready for competition.
We train competitive level of agility as well as obedience, also conformation, which is what you're used to seeing like at Westminster.
Sarah says after a dog goes through one of their classes, they have the ability to compete all over the region.
And you've just watched them come from a puppy that didn't know anything to having all this confidence.
Through a 1-hour agility class, canines can experience jumps, weaves, and contact obstacles. Lisa says that the most important thing to her is the companionship.
Good job. Good job, Charlie.
This is Jake Larson, reporting for Studio One.
The average cost of a dog obedience class is around $66. Competition training can cost into the thousands. Morgan, I'm really jealous of Lisa's job. I don't think that work would be that bad if you got to hang out with puppies all day.
Yeah, and the class seems like it's worth the money. Thanks, Kari. Now Emily joins us in the studio with a final look at the weather. Emily?
Thanks, Morgan. As we take a look at our temperatures for the next week, most of the country will be warm with a little bit chillier conditions off into the western part of the United States, mainly around the mountains. Most of the country will also see some precipitation next week, and California will be out of that rut of drier than average precipitation for the next week. And that brings us back to our weather question of the week. What is the record for most snowfall in one day in the United States? That is actually 76 inches. This happened between April 14th and 15th in 1921 in Silver Lake, Colorado. And the storm lasted a little over 32 hours. And Morgan, in that 32-hour time frame, it dropped about 95 inches of snow.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy, Em. Thanks. And that's our show for today. As always, you can follow us through social media or get more information on our website.
From all of us here at Studio One, have a great week.